Good evening. I'd like to call tonight's meeting of the Planning Board to order. First item on the agenda, actually, before we go through agenda items, I just want to make note for members of the public who are coming in and watching online or on TV. There have been three requests for continuances tonight, one for 525 Hartford Turnpike, and the other two are for 335 Maple Ave. So those will be continued to our meeting on April 2nd at 7 p.m. So we'll do those, we'll vote on those continuances later on in the meeting, but just to make sure everyone's aware. So first item on the agenda is review and approve minutes from the February 5th, 2026 meeting. Has everyone had the opportunity to review? Any questions, comments, concerns on the minutes?
No questions.
No
Yes.
question, Chair.
I just have one amendment.
Sure.
On top of page 4, in the meeting minutes from February 5th, 2026, paragraphs, first two paragraphs where it states Mr. McGoldrick should be Mr. Fitzgerald.
Okay, fantastic.
Make that amendment.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yes. So with that change, can I entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the February 5th, 2026 meeting?
I move that we approve the minutes of February 5, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
I'm in favor. I think we need roll call. 'cause
Oh, I
don't know.
apologize. We do need a
Yeah.
roll call. So just to go back, Matt,
Yes.
Dino, Perna,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and I'm yes, and Steve?
I am yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
excellent. Those are approved. Next item on the agenda is review and sign bills. Are there any this evening?
No, none this evening.
Okay. Next up, board member comments. Matt, anything?
No, nothing.
Dino?
No comments.
Perna?
No comment, Chair.
Tim?
I have no comments.
Steve?
No comments this month.
And I am all set as well. Turn it over to Chris for staff report.
Thank you. I actually have quite a bit to dig into this evening. So I just wanted to mention we did receive our subsidized housing inventory update after requesting new units for the 240Bs that were recently approved. So we've received that. Those are now on our subsidized housing inventory. We've also requested certification of our housing production plan. We will hear back from EOHLC by March 13th on that. So hopefully receiving that safe harbor status at that time. I also want to point out we have a survey that is online for 15 Maple Ave looking at reuse. If you've been to the town website recently, you may have seen that pop up. I want to kind of applaud staff and residents for responding. We have received over 809 responses as of today, which my understanding is actually a town-wide record for responses on surveys. So I'm really excited to dig into the data. I've kind of been watching as those responses come in, and there's a lot of good comments and responses that are in there. So there's going to be a lot that we can dig into and look at with that parcel. Related to that, we're still looking at locations and dates, but locations and times, but March 31st and April 14th, we're planning to have community workshops specifically looking at reuse of that parcel. So we will have an announcement when those times and locations are locked in, but if you can pencil those dates into your calendar, really looking to engage with the community to see what can be done at that location. Next, our master plan update. We had the request for proposals that has been submitted. We received 4 responses, and we have provided a recommendation for one of those. We're still waiting finalization of that recommendation, but that's been provided to select a consultant. So once that consultant is selected, we will start moving into contract negotiations and then begin the master plan update process. So That'll be a 12-month process, but we're really excited to kind of hit the ground running with that. And then lastly, our hazard mitigation plan is kind of coming to its public hearing process. It will be published early next week, and we'll have that available to the public. It's going through some final edits as of right now. There will be a public hearing March 16th at 6:30 p.m. in the Senior Center. So you can review, the public can review that document and bring any comments related to that. The public hearing process will go from when we publish it, anticipated the 10th of March, and will go for several weeks where you'll be able to review, submit comments to our office or to the consultant, and we'll incorporate those into a final draft that will go out for approval with FEMA. So,
Great. A lot of great stuff.
yep.
Excellent, thank you. Next is the meetings and hearings. First item this evening is the proposed modification to parking layout. This was a de minimis change request, continued public meeting for 31 Boston Turnpike. Chris, do you want to give us an update on that?
Yeah, thank you. So we've worked with the applicant on this one. The kind of crux of where we're at, so this location is looking at the interplay of the seating for their restaurant use and the parking that's available. We've kind of updated plans and worked with them. So the request for this evening for de minimis is some slight adjustments to parking. Those plans are in the folder. It would still be the 47 parking spaces for the 68 seats. So that would allow them to open once this approval is granted. They will likely come back to the board for modification, looking at adjusting their parking further, which may allow them for additional seating. But again, that's larger than a de minimis change, so at this time, I think the de minimis is appropriate with those revised documents, and we look forward to kind of working with them in terms of expanding their business as appropriate.
Okay, great. Board member questions or comments? Matt, anything?
None at this time,
You
though.
know?
No comment.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
My understanding was last time we approved the de minimis change, so I'm assuming that they're making some other minor changes which substantively didn't change anything that we have previously discussed, right?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, no question.
Okay.
No questions.
Steve, do you have anything?
No, just looking forward to this place opening. I know the permit has got to be, the original permit's got to be over 10 years old.
Yeah. All right, so I guess with that, I'd like to entertain acceptance of this as a de minimis change request. Is there a motion?
I move that the proposed modification of parking layout for Z&N LLC at 31 Boston Turnpike be approved as a de minimis change request.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Matt?
Yes.
Dino?
Yes.
Perna?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes,
And I am a yes. Okay. Let's get them open. Next item, 2 proposed commercial buildings, site plan approval and special permit. This is for 223 Hartford Turnpike. This is a new public hearing.
Yes, I'll read the legal notice. The Shrewsbury Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 5th, 2026, at 7 p.m. in the Select Board's hearing room at the Richard D. Carney Municipal Office Building, 100 Maple Avenue, to hear the application of 223 Hartford Legacy, LLC, P.O. Box 812359, Wellesley, Mass. 02482, as required by the Town of Shrewsbury zoning bylaw, Section 7F, for a site plan approval, and Section 7N for a special permit by the Planning Board to allow for the demolition of a 5,027 square feet building and the construction of a 16,200 square feet commercial building and a 12,000 square feet commercial building, each with an accessory garage. The proposed site plan is shown on a plan accompanied by the application titled, quote, "Site Development Plan for 223 Hartford Turnpike," end quote, prepared by J.M. Grenier Associates Incorporated, 118 Turnpike Road, Suite 200, Southborough, Mass. 01772, dated February 3rd, 2026, and stamped by Carlos Ferreira, professional engineer. The subject project is located at 223 Hartford Turnpike, northerly of Hartford Turnpike and east of Lake Street, and consists in whole or in part of Shrewsbury's Assessor's Tax Plate 53, Plot 064000. A copy of the application and plans may be seen in the Office of Planning and Economic Development Department at the Richard D. Carney Municipal Office Building, 100 Maple Avenue, Shrewsbury, Mass., and on the Planning Board website at www.shrewsburyma.gov/ongoing projects.
Okay.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. For the record, my name is Richard Ricker, and I'm an attorney here representing 223 Hartford Legacy LLC. With me tonight is John Grenier from J.M. Grenier and Associates. We also have Ali Khorasani here, who is the traffic engineer that has given a report on this particular site. This is a redevelopment of an older site. Prax Air is on the site. That's the remaining tenant that would stay there. That building would remain. And a cross-dock facility that's presently also on the site would be demolished and removed. In place, we would add 2 new buildings, as noted in the legal ad. These buildings, first of all, let me just say that the principals of the LLC are AJ Rich and Brian Rich, who are both Shrewsbury natives. They're very familiar with the town, having grown up here. Unfortunately, AJ was trying to, I think, join us by Zoom tonight, but I don't see him, so I apologize for that, but I know he tried. With respect to the redevelopment of the site, though, the purpose of these buildings is for construction equipment rental and sales, which is in keeping with the overlay district uses. The present use there right now that would be eliminated is the trailers and the trailer storage and movement and on and off of the site with various tractor trailers. I would suggest to you respectfully that this clearly is a higher and better use of the site. It will clean it up, redevelop it. We have, I understand, been through conservation in this particular matter, and that has been approved at this stage. We just recently received the comments from Graves Engineering, which John can address, but we just recently got them, and I think we need a little bit of work to be done as a result of that. We did have a pre-application meeting, obviously, as required, and we addressed those suggestions and comments in this program and in this plan. With that, I would ask John if he wants to just go briefly through the plan.
So as Richard mentioned, this site is located on the northerly side of Route 20. It's kind of across from Market Basket and the apartments. You head a little bit further to the west, that's the corner of Lake Street. So this is the property just to the east of the corner lot that's on Lake Street where they're looking to do the gas station and car wash. This is an existing 16-acre parcel. This area, which is on the westerly portion right here, this is a paved lot that, as Richard told you, is they do trailer storage and whatnot. Prax Air is on the westerly side of the property, and the property line is at an awkward angle where Route 20 is going, as you look at the plan, left to right. The side lot line comes off at an odd angle. So Prax Air, although it's on the westerly side of the property, it's kind of tucked behind that triangular piece that's part of that corner lot on the corner of Lake Street. There's an existing cross-dock building right here in this location. That is going to be raised, and approximately in that area, that is where one of the buildings is to be proposed to be built. This will be the first location for the equipment rental and sales. In this location, I said it's in the same area as that cross-dock building, and that is the 16,200 square foot building. Just to the east of that is what is the proposed 10,000 square foot building, and they would be leasing that out for a similar use or other uses that are allowed within the district. The rear portion of the property would be used for the storage of, or for the rental equipment, whether it's construction equipment. That will all be fenced off, so it won't be visible from Route 20. And for security purposes, they're gonna be fencing in the entire perimeter of the site. So that would block visibility for any of the equipment or whatever that's gonna be rented. The primary parking would be along the front portions of the site, so that's where any customers would come in, park in that front area, and then if they went to get their equipment or hook it up or trailer it out, they would go through the fence, go around into the back portion, load up their equipment, and then drive it out, and then come back out onto Route 20. On the easterly portion, you can see this is all wet area, and that's where that big hill goes up, and then that's where the dispensary is up, the next property up over here. So this is a big wooded wetland area that gives a good buffer from that property. And as I said, this is the way that this lays out. It's kind of tucked back behind that corner lot where they're proposing to put the gas station and the car wash. So we would keep the curb cut primarily the same as it is now. The way that the striping is on Route 20, when they did all the improvements in front of Market Basket, they already have a turning lane that goes in there. They have all the striping. So we're looking to use that existing curb cut. And as Richard said, we have Ali Corazani, who did a traffic analysis on this, and that was part of the package, and he can give you a brief overview of his analysis for what the traffic is now and what it will be in the future based on the proposed uses. We were in front of the Conservation Commission. We did close the hearing with them. They will be issuing an order of conditions. That'll be forthcoming. I can just briefly, how stormwater is treated right now, there's no treatment of stormwater off that site right now. It's all impervious, and it just washes off into the wetlands. There are some areas where there's a little bit of a berm where they had pushed over the years dirt, and then there's areas where it puddles, and then when it builds up, it blows through where the soil was stockpiled, and it just goes off into the wetlands. With this design, we are going to be doing catch basins, deep sumps, treating the water, and recharging it through these separate areas that you can see in the gray. So we sectioned it off into 3 little catchment areas, so we'll be recharging all of the impervious area into the ground. And that was a good benefit, and I think the Conservation Commission liked that. So we're meeting all stormwater, DEP regulations for treatment, recharge, et cetera. And as I said, the Conservation Commission reviewed this. We addressed their comments. That hearing is closed, and they will have an order of conditions forthcoming. I think I touched on all the big items. If you have any questions or comments and anything traffic related, we have Ali here to address those questions as well.
Through the chair, do you want to hear from Mr. Corsani?
If he has a presentation, we're more than,
Thank you.
yeah. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ali Khorasani. I'm a traffic engineer who prepared a memorandum for this project.
If you could just outline for the board what we have there now versus
Okay.
what we propose.
Sure. As was stated earlier, the site currently is used for storing trailers and trucks. And the use is going to change to construction equipment sale and service. And we gathered some traffic data under existing conditions, how many cars go in and out of that site on a daily basis. And we also obtained some data as to how many vehicles, including trucks, will be going in and out of the site once the new buildings are built. And in addition to that, we checked the traffic generation for a site, a land use like that, that is provided by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. And it turns out there isn't gonna be a lot of traffic going in and out based on that type of a land use, talking about 28 the most during evening rush hour. Vehicles will be going in and out. About 20 of them will be leaving the site in the evening during the critical peak hour, and about 8 of them will be arriving at the site. And we looked at the traffic volumes on Route 20 in that general area and noticed that the daily traffic is around 25,000 vehicles a day, and during rush hour, it's about 2,016 vehicles per hour on Route 20. So if we were to use the higher number from the ITE trip generation manual, we're talking about adding about 1.3 to 1.4% traffic to the street. Again, that doesn't take into account what's happening there now. As I indicated, we have information that there's actually more traffic now than it would be in the future with the proposed buildings. And we looked at the safety of vehicles going in and out, and we essentially looked at the sight distances for vehicles. We want to be able to look to the left or right when they're pulling in or out. And we found out that there's plenty of sight distance, way exceeding what the standards are for that driveway. And there's an existing driveway, by the way. It's on a Mass Highway facility. And then we also looked at the history of that area. As everybody knows, it was recently developed, and there are a number of apartments there. The Market Basket is there, and a bunch of other uses are there. And Mass DOT required the developer to improve the intersection and the surrounding area. That meant that they would have to add left turn lanes at the intersection, at the signalized intersection. And they also added left turn lanes, one going eastbound to go into this side, and in a westerly direction to go into the Skull Edgemere development. So they already anticipated that they have no issues with that type of a movement. And because of that, we don't think there are really any issues over there.
Okay.
Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Sure. Chris, do you have anything from the town side before we go to the board?
Yes, we're still doing our review. Certainly, there's a number of waiver requests that we wanted to take a look at in terms of reviewing those for appropriateness. We'll continue to kind of push through that information and get a comment letter out to the board this evening, but I don't have one prepared for right now. But.
Okay. I'd like to open it up for board questions, comments. Matt, do you have anything right now?
Just a quick one. When you did the traffic study, like as you're coming down to go into that property, it's obviously a right turn coming in,
Right.
and then a right turn coming out. Are you going to not, you only gonna allow a right in and right out, or, cause I know Route 20 can be crazy. You allow a left turn out of there or not allow a left turn. That would just, you know, like,
I indicated, through the chair, if I may, I indicated earlier that this whole area was redesigned recently.
Yep.
And as part of the requirements for that particular project in Mass Highway, felt that left turn in and out was safe enough.
I just must have missed that.
As I understand it, the corner lot, which is proposed for a gas station and a car wash, and I believe for diesel fueling as well. I understand Mass Highway has agreed to allow them to make a left turn out of that area as well, which they generate a lot more traffic than this site here.
No, that's not, it's a right in, right out on
Yeah.
that one.
Is it right in on Route 20?
Right,
Sorry?
From Route 20, that's right in, right out?
yeah.
Yeah.
Was it, that had morphed
It's-
over time, didn't it?
I'm sorry?
Didn't that kind of change over time? Didn't, originally, wasn't there
Mass
the
DOT was,
proposal?
said that they would do a right in, right out. You would
Ultimately.
not pull out and take a left,
Yeah.
left out of that.
Okay,
That's my recollection, yes.
okay.
Yes.
Again, if I may, they generate a lot more traffic than this. And we're talking about 5-10 times as much, if not more.
Okay. Dino, do you have anything?
Yeah, so just to reiterate, the Mass DOT, you have a blessing from them? Everything's okay with them?
On which project we're talking about? This project here?
Yeah.
It may not even require Mass DOT approval because it's an existing driveway.
Okay, and you're staying with that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Perna, do you have any?
Yeah, just to confirm on that Mass DOT. So because you have an existing curb cut, that's the reason why you may not need a permit from them?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. If we were proposing a new curb cut or modifying a curb cut, you'd have to, obviously, you're doing work within the state's right of way. But if you're keeping the same curb cut, we don't believe that we'll have to gain a new permit from DOT.
So your existing curb cut today is 65 foot?
It's approximately, yes.
It's actually more, isn't it?
Is that? But we'll be,
Because I'm looking at your existing conditions, I can't see the square footage of the existing curb cut, but I mean, just from the other plan, and again, I don't have the scale, right? So it seems like it might be a little bit wider, but I don't know that.
If I may, because there's some larger vehicles are expected to make the turn, it is usually wider, so especially trucks won't have to encroach on the adjacent lane in order to make the turn without encroaching on the exiting lane as well. That's one of the reasons. And also is partially because it is a little bit skewed. It's not a 90-degree intersection. That's why it's wider than standard driveways.
And I would note that Graves picked up on that in their comments, and that's an area that we need to be concerned about and to pay attention to,
Yeah.
and come back to you and tell you how we've hopefully resolved it.
If I may, and Perna, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I would actually, I'd like to see if we can take this one step further, because this is on a state highway. If there is some, initial feedback, I know that we can't go through a whole MassDOT process right now, and I'm not suggesting as such, but if there can be at least a preliminary conversation had with MassDOT.
Sure.
To have them take a look at this, and if there are modifications, even if they're minor, find out what MassDOT's gonna require, just so that we can make sure that we're really getting the full breadth on that.
We can report back on that.
That'd be great.
My client just texted me telling me it's 65 feet right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank
my
you.
phone was buzzing too.
I have my phone on silent, but the watch,
But it's coming through, it's coming through.
My,
Okay.
my pocket was buzzing.
I'm sorry, Perna, go ahead, do you have?
Yeah, on the Concom, did they already close the Concom public hearing
They
and you are
did.
expecting a decision, or?
Correct,
Oh, okay, so they closed it.
correct.
Are there any issues relating to whether you will need to file MIPA
No.
for
No.
this one?
No, there's no thresholds. You know, typically for MEPR, it's thresholds for trips, which we're not even close, parking spaces, which that's 300, area of
it's all numbers,
disturbance, it's all, we're well below any thresholds that would require MEPR review.
Impervious area also.
Correct.
Just look at that. My last one would be, again, I may not have heard it properly. At one point of time during your presentation, you said there's more traffic there now versus later. I quite didn't understand. Maybe I didn't get it right, or can you?
If I may, through the chair again, this is based on the information we have received from the operators of the existing buildings, the type of use they have. Right now, one of the buildings that's going to be raised is used for supplying industrial gas, compressed gas to different businesses and such. So they generate more traffic than a heavy construction equipment sales and service.
Okay, thanks.
Tim, do you have anything?
Yes, it appears from your truck turning plan in your plan that this is a right in, right out only, where the only left turn would be going eastbound into the property. Is that right?
No, we did those turns because they would be the most, you know, crossing traffic patterns. But that was just an example of, for tractor trailers coming in and out of the site, taking a left. I believe we took a left into the site and then coming out and taking a left.
The only left turn on this turning plan is eastbound on 20 into the property.
Okay,
There's nothing showing a left turn out of the property to go eastbound on the
Right.
turning plan.
coming out and going, yeah, because that's a much easier turn crossing traffic because that's a wider radius. The tightest radius is if you're coming out of the site to go west and take a hard right.
That's what Graves picked up on in the
And that's
queuing.
what, exactly, that's.
To Mr. Ricker's point earlier.
Correct,
So-
that's the conversation
Which
we need
needs
to
to be
have.
addressed, yes.
Okay, so it's, and then in his report, Mr. Ali's report concludes a 1% increase in traffic from this development, which in his words in the report is, quote, insignificant. That traffic can safely be accommodated by the existing roadway network. But that's where I'm confused, because your report concluded it's a 1% increase in traffic, which would appear to be from the existing use of the parcel. But you said that there's going to be less traffic, so which one is it?
Through the chair again, under existing condition is more than 1% or more than what it will be once the use is changed. So on the proposed use, we're talking about 1% increase in the area traffic.
Okay, so I read that right.
You did read it correctly,
Okay.
but this is for the proposed condition, whereas under existing condition, it will be more than 1%.
All right.
Because there's more traffic under existing conditions.
All right. In the current use of this parcel, they're currently making left turns out of this property onto Route 20?
Yeah, they are.
Okay. All day, every day?
All day, every day.
Okay.
And it's all tractor trailers, most of it.
Yep.
If I may add through the chair again, especially when making a left turn, because there is a traffic signal about 900 feet west of the location, west of the driveway, when the lights change, and then oftentimes a lot of the traffic, when they start from stop, it takes them a while to reach that speed. So, and it creates also a gap in the traffic. So the trucks or cars will be able to make a left turn. out of the
Understood.
site.
A lot of those trucks are, if I could just, through
Sure, sure.
the chair, a lot of the trucks that are actively going in and out of that site, there's another terminal for that particular business nearby. So they've been going back and forth between those terminals as well.
Okay.
So it's fairly active.
Okay. I don't have anything further.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything?
So my comment is that, yeah, my understanding is that from the former owner, the late Ed DeFutis, that this was for storage of trailers that were generated by the CSX facility. So I think there will be less traffic. I think this is a good use, exactly the type which we could use more of on Route 20. So I think I'm good with this.
I do have just, aside from the traffic items that we've talked about, just to confirm, there will be 3 structures on the site, and the existing Praxair.
Correct.
Correct.
You have one building that, where it's being raised, and in its place, you're putting this new building for the equipment rental.
Yep.
And then this third building that's closest to the Route 20 entrance, do you have an end user for that?
We would expect that it would be the same type of user, which would be equipment rental.
So there's not a defined user for that, but
We
we
have,
anticipate it'll be something in that same vein.
So,
we are inches away from a lease on the first building, and the second building would come after, obviously, but it would be the same use.
would this all be built at the same time, though? Are you doing this, I'll call it the third building, as a speculative?
I would call it a program. The plan would be to build them one after the other, probably not at the same time.
In the event, let's play out a worst-case scenario, that you don't get an end user for that third building that is the use that you're kind of envisioning there, but you get a different use, which, hey, that's great. How can we confirm or assure that whatever, I mean, this is just parking lot, right? So how can we assure that there's going to be appropriate traffic circulation for the trucks that are coming into the site that, with this other use, if we don't know what that use is? I know that sounds a bit jumbled. I hope that was somewhat clear.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, if it's a more intense, hypothetically, a more intense use, that's going to have much more traffic. But what we had stated in our narrative is that third building, let's call it, would be proposed to be an allowed use, whether it's in the the overlay district or under the base zoning. We're gearing what's proposed to be more in the same vein, maybe some storefront in the front, some parking up front, and then garages in the back, and that's how they're marketing it for proposed tenants. And they wouldn't necessarily build it right away, because if there comes a tenant who says, well, I want you to change the building, no, I need some more garage doors. And that's something where if the program changed, we would have to come back to the town and say, okay, is this use in keeping with what is proposed, what's approved
Sure.
under this permit? If it's a big change in use and it's gonna be, I don't know, something that's much more intense and requires much more parking, we'd have to cross that bridge and we come to it, but that's something that the town would be notified of as part of that process, whether they're trying to go for a building permit, or if it's wildly different, and say, no, we have to come back in and modify this permit.
Sure, okay, no, understood. The other question, I guess, and it kind of also, it always comes back to MassDOT, right? If there is, in fact, some changes that the state suggests, is there a potential that it's going to impact this parking area for this third building in the front? So you'd have to do some further shifting, and what, have we?
The grades out there, if you're heading west on Route 20, there's and actually there's a slope easement that the town has along that. It drops off significantly. So just because of the existing grades of Route 20 and the grades of the site now, I don't anticipate at least shifting any of the curb cut further to the east, just the grades don't allow for it. You'd end up having a ramp coming down well into the site.
Okay,
Mass DOT actually did slope easements there as well.
okay,
Was it DOT too? Oh, maybe it was DOT.
Yes, it was.
okay.
Okay.
Final question, this might be a little bit outside our purview, but so just so that I have a clear understanding, this entire site, I know what it looks like today. It's all paved up to essentially the buffer?
Yes. You talking wetland buffer?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so there will be all pavement until you get up to essentially the 6-foot-high chain link fence that's being proposed.
Yes, and that is, but there's existing pavement out there. That was all like old grindings that when they redid Route 20 and Route 9, they were getting grindings in there and spreading them down and compacting them. So that's all impervious and paved. And the limit of disturbance along like towards that easterly side, we're maintaining, or in some instances, maybe pulling it out a little bit because we're in accordance with the Conservation Commission that has the 15-foot no disturb, 30-foot no build, so we're in keeping with their current local bylaw. So, but approximately it's about the same. And then
But this is a dramatic improvement.
oh, dramatic improvement.
Sure.
In light of
because
the
we're gonna-
stormwater retention.
Yeah.
I
And-
was just wondering from a stormwater, if there was a possibility of doing even some like rough landscaping on that edge to further help, it would help with some infiltration in the area
Well,
too,
we're
right?
we're pitching the site differently. So now we're pitching the site not towards the wetlands, but away, and then we're capturing in catch basins, and then we're recharging it. And there's gonna be curbing all along that side. And then one of the conditions that we talked about with the Conservation Commission is a lot of that area has been disturbed quite a bit over the years, and there's some stockpiles of dirt, and there's some invasive species out there. So as part of the permit with the Conservation Commission, they're gonna be by hand going in there and pulling out, removing some of the invasive species and whatnot. And what was putting the fence, the 6-foot chain link fence over there is they didn't want, for snow removal, pushing snow and pushing it off into the wetlands, so they wanted a physical barrier there too,
Sure.
to keep people from, or plow drivers, in the middle of the night just pushing.
From doing what they've been doing.
From doing what they've been doing, which is why it's a mess over there now, so.
Sure. Okay. Any other board questions or comments? This is a public hearing. I'd like to open it up to the public, see if there's any questions or comments. Yes, sir. Yes, please. The cameras need to catch your voice.
Phone catches it too.
But that too, yes.
You want me to give my name and address?
Yes, please.
Chris Kirk, 40 Westwood Road. Is there going to be servicing of the, through you, servicing of the equipment on site?
Through you, yes,
Okay.
Within the building.
within the buildings,
And
as is typical with a construction equipment rental facility.
okay. And presumably then there will be storage of fuel, oil, and other lubricants on the site?
That's correct.
Okay.
All pursuant to permits.
Okay. And just on heavy vehicles making turning movements, just down the road is Flynn's service station, and occasionally trucks, big trucks traveling east along Route 20 will try to make left turns into Flynn's, and it's particularly during rush hour. It's exciting. Fortunately, there's not like a real straight way leading up to Flynn's. It's a very short one. However, it's very straight on the hill going from Flynn's down to the intersection with Lake Street. And at rush hour, no one obeys the speed limit. On a number of occasions, I have driven at the speed limit, and even cars parked on the shoulder of the road are moving faster than I am. My concern is that anybody who's going east on Route 20, particularly around rush hour, they might get into trouble from, for example, people who see a green light way down there and decide that they're going to beat it. So I was sort of wondering if maybe like a Jersey barrier. Of course, this is not in your purview. This would be Mass DOT, but I'm just thinking out loud. That's all.
Okay, great.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this evening? All right, seeing none, it sounds like we'd like to try and get a little bit more information on, we'll give Chris an opportunity to kind of
Yes.
go through the waivers and whatnot, and then if that'll also give you an opportunity to check in with MassDOT, and then we can circle back on this if that's
Yeah, I think that
acceptable to
as
them.
we try to address the Graves comments, and I think they may factor into the waivers conversation as well, so,
Okay,
yes,
great.
we appreciate it. Thank
Okay.
you.
No, absolutely. So at this point, I'd like to see if there is a motion to continue this public hearing to the April 2nd meeting.
I move that we move the proposed commercial building site plan approval and special permit 223 Hartford Legacy LLC to April 2nd, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Dino?
Aye.
Perna?
Aye.
Tim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I am a yes. All right, thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, this is a continued public hearing for a proposed common driveway special permit for 33 and 35 Redland Road. Good evening.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well. I'm Mike Scott. I'm from Land Design Collaborative. I'm here on behalf of the owners. And I think I was here last a few months ago, at which time we discussed the project. It was pre any peer review. I had requested a waiver. Well, the applicant had requested a waiver. We discussed it. My opinion was not consistent with all the members of the board. So Graves has performed their review. They did find some deficiencies, discrepancies, whatnot. We have addressed their comments. They issued a second, thankfully, clean bill of health letter this week. There was, the other matter that was sort of open was there was a need for an A&R. This is presently one lot, so Mr. Jarvis got us the A&R a couple weeks ago. That's been filed. So I'd like to think that at least all the concerns that the board raised and Grave raised previously have been addressed. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If there's any loose ends, I'm happy to try to address those.
Chris, do you have anything?
So no, I think as represented, I have the clean comment letter from Graves, and the A&R has been submitted, so we have nothing else outstanding on our end, so.
Okay. From the board, Matt, anything?
No questions.
Dino?
Nope.
Verna?
No comment.
No, I've reviewed the Graves letter of March 3rd, and I'm in favor of the special permit.
Steve, anything?
I'm all set.
Okay. I am also all set. This is a public hearing, so are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this evening? Seeing none, I would like to entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Dino?
Aye.
Perna?
Aye.
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So I think,
So I'll draft a decision for the board's consideration at the next April 2nd meeting.
okay. Does that work?
Fantastically. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, this is a continued public hearing for 0 Greenbrier Drive. This is proposed new lots, modification of a definitive subdivision.
Where's my engineer? Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board again. My name is Richard Ricker, for the record. I expect John Grenier to be sitting next to me in a second.
You didn't think we were gonna be moving so fast.
As you recall, we were here last month, and there was considerable material that you needed to review and that we needed to review as well. As we've stated before, this is a cul-de-sac that presently has, it's been permitted, and there is an over 55 development that was previously permitted off of this subdivision, cul-de-sac. At that time, the fire department weighed in relative to the cul-de-sac itself and its adequacy. My understanding is that you also have a report relative to the water pressure now, and the sufficiency of the water pressure for sprinklers, even at the highest elevation down in this area. And that says that there is sufficient water pressure there. Obviously, the Board of Health would review any of the septic systems or any of the other requirements, adequacy, so forth, for the 3 lots that we're seeking for this location. The roadway would still remain private, and the drainage within the roadway would still remain private. As you know, there's a rain garden in the cul-de-sac as a result of requests from conservation during the original cul-de-sac hearings. Again, I would suggest to you respectfully that the 3 lots that we're seeking meet the dimensional requirements of the bylaw. I think you have the original traffic study from the over 55 development, as well as a follow-up memo in your package that notes to you that this additional 3 lots would be, as I would call it, fairly insignificant in terms of any kind of traffic volume that it would generate. Your previous decision said that the applicant, if you wanted to have more lots on this cul-de-sac, should come back to the board and come back with an amended plan, and that's what he's done. So if you have any questions or otherwise, just we'll try to answer them.
Okay. All right. Matt, do you have anything?
No questions.
Do you know?
I do not.
Yeah, quick question. When we approved the original proposal, it came with lot more units, and then through the whole process, like many other similar projects, it was scaled down both because of traffic and other issues. And if you are adding 3 now, I was wondering how that would fit into the overall, whether it be traffic or fire-related matters.
So
in that
I can, so just to give you how the process proceeded from the beginning is there was an initial subdivision application, and that created the cul-de-sac. So that was the subdivision application. There was no development shown on that original plan. That just created the frontage with the cul-de-sac. And as part of that subdivision decision, there was a condition that said, if you're gonna come back with any lots, you need to come back in front of the planning board. So after that, within a year, there was an application for an over 55 that didn't include the entire land area. It showed a frontage of about 67 feet on the frontage on the cul-de-sac. And then going back, and I can show you, I have a plan here. So this is an overall plan. Here is the cul-de-sac that was approved under the subdivision. Then after that, as I said, we came in with an application for an over 55, which was for, and this is the proposed lot line that was showed as part of that site plan approval for the over 55. So we had about 67 feet of frontage right here, and then a long driveway that comes into the site, and then it loops around for the over 55. So the proposed lots now are looking to create 3 single-family lots on the remaining frontage of what's left over, with just the portion that was chopped out and the southerly part that was chopped out for the over 55. So now to answer your question, when we did the initial application for the over 55, what was initially proposed was 66 over 55 townhouse units. We did a traffic study that showed the traffic generated by 66 units. And it demonstrated that there was no issues for traffic in the area based on the 66 units. Ultimately, through the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission, part of it, we had another crossing to get some other upland, and Conservation Commission didn't want us to do a second wetland crossing. We ended up paring down the development to what ultimately was 48 units. So the updated traffic, we went back to the original traffic engineer, and they did an updated analysis that said, okay, there was X amount of trips based with the 66 units. Now we're updating it for 48 units and 3 single-family house lots. And ultimately, it ends up either a wash or less trips based on the reduced amount of over 55 units and then 3 single-family house lots. We also, as Richard stated, when the over 55 got approved, there was a question from the head of the water department at the time saying we might have issues with water pressure in that area. As part of the over 55 development, when they brought the water lines in, they did flow tests and pressure tests, and they calculated that even with the way that the topography goes down in this area where the cul-de-sac is, that's down low, that's in the flat. The hill, this goes way up, actually heading towards almost like the backside of where the high school is. The grade goes way up. So in the worst case scenario with the furthest unit back, there is, I think with the minimum required pressure, they're 30% above what the minimum pressure would be for the sprinklers back there. So there's no issue with water pressure for the over 55, and obviously these house lots, they're down in the flat, they're way down low, they're probably 30 feet lower. There's no pressure issues because of the elevation, there's no pressure issues. It would be even more pressure where the single-family house lots are. So we are addressing that. There's no issues with traffic, there's no issues with water pressure. For conservation, we will be filing notices of intent for the work on every individual lot like we would for any type of development. We'll have to meet stormwater management through DPW like we would for any other single-family house lot development. And Board of Health, we have to go and get septic systems designed. The septic systems would be for the individual lot, has nothing to do with the over 55. And I would note that when the site was initially looked at, engineers went out and they popped holes all over the place. And primarily even in that flat area where we're looking to do the single-family house lots, it's all sand and gravel out there. So we don't we're confident there won't be any issues with, you know, soils or depth to groundwater, et cetera, because it's all sand and gravel out there. So I think what we're looking for from you folks is, yes, it was required when the cul-de-sac was permitted to come back with any future new lots. And which obviously, that's why we're here before you, and to confirm that there's no safety issues, there's no traffic issues, there's no fire department safety issues, there's no water pressure issues, to make sure that what we are proposing is consistent with the original approval in terms of, you know, safety, et cetera,
And the requirements of the subdivision
and the
control law.
requirements of the subdivision control law. So,
Thank you.
Tim, do you have anything?
No, after reviewing the Chapel Engineering traffic letter, that certainly made sense, as did Mr. Ricker's letter of February 2nd, so I don't have anything further.
okay.
Thank you.
Steve, do you have anything?
Yeah, again, I think the issue here is that both the special permit application and the special permit decision reference the entirety of the site. What occurred when the cul-de-sac was created to create frontage for the over 55 development is largely irrelevant. So again, when we looked at this, and I know that former Chairman Boulay and former member Thomas were quite adamant about the density of the project. And had they known that, or had we all known that with 3 units or 3 housing units that were going to be proposed off the cul-de-sac, I don't think we would have voted to approve the 48 unit over 55. And again, so now and again, John did a good job of getting the original applicant out of that hearing alive, because they weren't getting an approval that night. And again, 48 units was negotiated, from my mind. So I think now they're asking this board to substitute its judgment from a prior board, and I think that sets a bad precedent. So for those reasons, I don't think I would be in favor of doing this.
And through the chair, the only response I would have to that is, when the application was submitted for the over 55, it was always proposed for a portion of the overall property, the overall frontage. It wasn't proposed to include the entire parcel.
And we went back and looked at the square footage versus the entire parcel versus the parcel that was used for the over 55, and there was like a 3 or 4 acre.
More than, I think the proposed acreage that was proposed for the over 55 was like 36 acres, which at the overall parcel is like 45 acres. So in terms of, you know, density, open space, impervious areas, it was always based on the proposed portion of the lot, not the overall parcel.
And those square footages were noted on the plan.
Correct.
Okay, but I think, again, I think our decision references the entirety of the site. So that's my position.
Okay.
If, again, I'm only one vote, so whatever the board's will is, so be it.
And you're in Florida.
I'm in Florida. So maybe I'm smarter than all of you.
It only counts as half a
And
vote.
I'm not.
I do have a question about water pressure. I may have missed it, but the pressure testing that was done, it seemed to me that was done on the front of the cul-de-sac and not the top end of the cul-de-sac at the highest level. So I guess I don't know if I missed that, or if.
No, they have the water, and Steve, correct me if I'm, this is Stephen Benincasa. He's
Sorry, Steve.
he's building the over 55 right now. They brought water, they have hydrants up into the site, I don't know that they have like a hydrant at the furthest back portion yet, but they did test hydrants within the site and up into the site. And then based on the pressure tests and the flow tests on that, they said, okay, we have X amount of feet of water line to run, plus wherever in the back unit there, I think there's a cathedral ceiling that sprinkler, that would be the worst case scenario. So they did the calculations on that. And even with those calculations, they had, it was 30% greater than what the minimum pressure would be. So they had a wide, a wide range of excess pressure beyond what the minimum would be. And that was, I know that that was a requirement that prior to getting any occupancies, or it was part that testing be done and okayed. And they do have an occupancy for one of the units already. So I believe that has been reviewed by the powers that be at the town hall, whether it's through the water department, the DPW, or whatnot. And that has.
Problems with one of the water tests and the
If you can just come up so that we can.
Let Chuck finish.
Oh, I think I can finish your sentence for you. They had initial problem with one of the flow tests, and it was because the gate valve wasn't opened all the way. So they went back, they said, this doesn't look right. And they said, oh, the gate valve wasn't opened all the way. They opened up the gate valve all the way, and then they didn't have any issues. So there was a little confusion with the water pressure initially, but I had, in addition to the data, I reached out to the builder, Steve's job super, and he had the fire protection engineer write up a little narrative just for the lay person to look at, and he explained, hopefully better than I did, that they don't have any pressure issues out there. In fact, they have a 30% excess of pressure beyond the minimum.
Okay. If you have access to that, that would be wonderful to see. Personally, to me, 30% doesn't sound like a great deal. And in the event.
We did submit that.
Okay, then I must have missed it, and
Okay.
my apologies. I will go back and double check myself on that.
Okay.
In the event that, as you know, you're going to develop out these 3 lots, and then suddenly we don't have sufficient pressure, what do we do?
If there's an issue with, say hypothetically, and like I said, the engineers have done their calculations, you might have to put a pressure booster in, a booster in one of the units or whatever units, elevation drives a lot of it in terms of pressure head. So they would hypothetically need to put a booster in there to keep the pressure up. But also,
In the unlikely event
in the unlikely,
that would be the case, because this is a substantially lower elevation than where the testing occurred.
right. And just to kind of put things in perspective, area-wise of the town, if you go up Cypress Ave, heading up towards the high school, the houses that are at the end of Cypress Ave, which are all in the same water loop system, those houses have to be, from the highest units for the over 55, those are elevation-wise, they got to be up another 30 plus feet when you get up to the end of the driveway of, or the last houses at the end of Cypress. Those are even higher elevation than the highest townhouses are.
There's no issue because the water main, the gate valve was changed.
Yeah.
The water gate was changed, so there's no issue.
And, okay, so I think I understand that. And then my other question, can you just point out on the plan again where, like, the wetlands areas, and then where you're kind of, my ultimate question is, from an access point for these 3 lots, is this going to be, I mean, has that been fully vetted out, I guess?
I asked the same question.
And the short answer
So it's not a dumb question then, Rick.
so,
No, I did ask the same question, sorry.
and I told him to mind his own business. So, yes,
You wanna
because, yes, the wetland line, that was, the entire wetland line was flagged, both as when they did the cul-de-sac and when we did the over 55. When we did the over 55, we extended, more flagging. But one of the lots would be, and I know it's hard to see, one of the lots would be placed in this area. There's a 100-foot buffer. The wetland line is over here near the end. So we can almost stay completely out of the buffer zone. For these lots, there's a big knoll right here, and we have the wetland line and then a 30-foot buffer. We can get the driveways in there, houses in there, stormwater in there, and don't forget, when we did the initial permitting for this, there was no local wetland bylaw. They didn't have the 15-foot no disturb, the 30-foot no build. We can still maintain those setbacks to the wetland buffer, even with the new wetland bylaw. And don't forget, we still have to go in front of the Conservation Commission.
Sure.
We still have to make sure that we're abiding by their buffer zones subsequent to this process. And we feel confident because we're not just guessing on the wetland line. The wetland line was locked in. We know what we have for, land area, obviously. And so we can make sure we maintain those buffer zones to the wetlands.
But I did really ask the question because of one of the cases that we had looked at relative to adequacy of subdivision access, and which basically addressed switchbacks and things like that in driveways, and I wanted to make sure that was not something that we were dealing with here.
Right.
So
So we're not going to be crossing any wetlands, we're not going to be filling any wetlands, we're going to actually maintain the stricter rules of the current wetland bylaw.
In a fancy engineering way, right?
no fancy.
You know,
Good engineering.
yeah.
No, okay. All right, this is a public hearing. Are there members of the public wishing to speak on this item this evening? Seeing none, Chris, I'm sorry, did you have something?
Well, we did review, in terms of some of the open questions, the inclusionary, and we did review this, so, the requirement, for inclusionary from the original permit, if you include both these lots, was the, 15%, so at 48 units. With the 3 additional units, it does round up, so they have 8, that was the 8, units was the assessed fee in lieu that was provided. So with 51 units, it does not round up further than 8, so they would still be within that first threshold. To the points of the wetlands, the original permit, part of that reduction in units, as was discussed, was related to the wetlands crossing. The Conservation Commission did not grant that wetlands crossing, and that greatly reduced the buildability of the units and the build out of those units. And the board did take that into consideration for their review. In terms of the water pressure, just kind of digging into that a little bit further. So my understanding of that is that these 3 units certainly are below where that pressure test was done. The pressure test was done a number of units into the site. They're currently been released for building permits, but not for occupancy. So our concern is that the hydrant, which is installed at the top of the hill, if these 3 units are included, we want to ensure that the pressure flows are not of that hydrant, and the units at the top of the hill of the over 55 are not affected by the inclusion of these 3 units. So just looking for clarification on that item. and ensuring that that's not the case. So, we understand that the calculations were done and that it shows from the calculation that it is meeting those standards, reviewing the permit. So there was an actual condition placed. Those figures were shown to meet the data, that the figures showed that they would have adequate pressure, but the board was concerned enough, and the water department at that time was concerned enough to require the board to put that condition in, that specifically be tested prior to occupancy. So we're just bringing that concern again in relation to these projects, and want to make sure that that is confirmed, that there will be water pressure. So we would suggest, if the board is either we look at conditioning this modification similarly to have some relationship of that water pressure test, or get that tested and clarified prior to issuing this modification.
Is that something that you guys would be willing to consider beforehand, or is that?
If you wanted to condition that, like I said, the fire protection engineer did the calculations for the furthest hydrant that's into the site right now. The elevation difference from where they have to the back side is a little bit higher. It's not dramatically higher. And he did the math out. It's simple math. It's, X amount of feet of pipe, you get so much head loss, plus the elevation of, the highest sprinkler head. And he said even in the worst case scenario, they had a 30% buffer, which in that world, I guess he's like, yeah, we have plenty of pressure. So they will continue, if you put a condition that they continue, not just to go off the calculations, but ensure prior to occupancy of those further back units that they provide a pressure test, I'm sure that's fine.
Would this be an 8-inch water main going in?
And it's looped around the site, and then they have, I think, 2-inch, for each individual townhouse, there's a 2-inch sprinkler line and a 1-inch domestic.
But the main line coming in?
Main line,
Oh, the main line, yes.
8-inch.
It's an 8-inch.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, a quick one, just follow up. You mentioned sprinkler line. Is there a sprinkler line for the homes, or sprinkler line
Yes.
for lawnmower?
No.
Each home has to have a separate sprinkler line and water line, so
And
two lines going.
The sprinkler line is for the homes, for
Within the
inside
house.
sprinkler system.
Yeah, we're
Inside
not,
sprinkler.
Okay.
oh yeah, we're not talking irrigation.
No.
These are,
Then just the next.
Okay, thanks.
We're not that crazy.
no, you want your lawn to be green, you need good pressure.
All right. I guess at this point, what is the board's wish is there an interest in closing this hearing this evening, or is
Make a
there
motion to-
additional information that people would like to try to?
Let's say make a motion to approve.
Motion to close the hearing?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, Matt,
Aye.
Dino,
Aye.
Verna,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Steve?
No.
Okay. And I am a yes to close the hearing, so we'll have,
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Yes, close the hearing.
okay.
Sorry.
So, I was like, do you have more questions, Steve?
No.
Okay, so, we'll look at, trying to put together a
Draft decision.
draft decision for next year.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is for, is for 308 and 312 Boston Turnpike. This is a continued public hearing for a proposed mixed-use development site plan approval and special permit. You can't just get up and get down.
This is the regular.
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, for the record, my name is Richard Ricker. I'm the attorney representing the petitioners who are here again with us. If I can just, since the last meeting, this is, I believe, the fourth meeting on this particular proposal. Since the last meeting, and I have Hamid Hatami with us and Ayman Abdel-Jabbar, who are the principals of the development group, which is Prestige Property Development, and of course, John Grenier is seated to my right. Since the last meeting, we have removed all references to the restaurant use, the troublesome restaurant discussion. It would be my suggestion that that is just too difficult to try to predict at this time when, number one, we weren't planning a restaurant, and number two, it was only added into the proposal as a suggestion, which really didn't have to happen. So this is totally retail. This is now totally retail, the commercial part of this proposal. The traffic, and that has been recognized, as you know from the latest Bowman's comments. I think she might be here. Yes, she is. The traffic peer review and our traffic engineer, Ali is here as well, Khorasani. They've gone back and forth, as you know, and I believe you have the comments and the responses to them. But as I say, Ali is here, as you requested. And in addition to that, I just wanted to note that addressing the community benefit comments that and concerns that we had, we have submitted a letter from Lakeway Business District Association, and they suggest in that letter, as you know, you all have a copy, I believe, they suggested a minimum contribution. Our suggestion is a $10,000 contribution to continue to improve and enhance the median strips or really any landscaping in that general vicinity of this particular business district. That number is arrived at by us based on what we anticipated the trailhead to cost were we to go forward with improving the trailhead for the neighborhood entry to the trails behind this property. As you will recall from our previous discussions, that was something that met with some considerable pushback from the neighbors, and it was not something that they wanted us to do. So I would suggest to you respectfully that this is a legitimate community benefit in addition to the affordable housing component of this proposal, thus hopefully answering Mr. Fitzgerald's previous questions. With that, and I won't belabor the point with the additional community benefits, we talked about the various benefits. With that, we do have Ali Khorasani here, and we have the peer reviewer here. I don't know how you want to proceed. Do you want to hear from him relative to the overall project? Or shall he come up and answer questions that you may have?
I mean, perhaps maybe it would make most sense. I mean, we've had the opportunity to review Ali's report. Perhaps maybe Michelle can come up, just give her comments, and then I think that would give Ali an opportunity to respond to some of those and or answer questions, if that
Great. I was
makes
just
sense.
looking for a format. Yep.
Sure.
So that's great.
Can I just,
Thank you.
can I just confirm $5,000 to Lakeway or?
10,000.
But the letter says 5.
Pardon me?
Letter says 5.
It says a minimum of 5.
Okay.
But we thought in all fairness that, and as a goodwill gesture, I mean, we were gonna spend that on the trailhead, so.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that clarification. Hi.
Hi, good evening. Maureen LePayton from Bowman Consulting. As noted, we had done the traffic peer review and had picked up on the restaurant use on the site plan. So that was our main comment, really relative to this application was that the traffic study was prepared based on a retail use, and that the plans indicated that the commercial space could be restaurant/retail. So we had questioned whether there was a need for a updated trip generation comparison that had indicated what that site may be with a restaurant use on it. The applicant's engineer came back and said that the intent of the site is completely for a retail use. They're potentially even working something out right now with a retail tenant being lined up. So Mass DOT does have traffic impact study guidelines where they recommend, when you need further analysis beyond trip generation, when you need to look at further study areas, when you need to look at the actual capacity of intersections, crash data, things like that. And that's usually when there's a 5% increase in the peak hour traffic or 100 trips or more generated during the peak hour. So with that retail use, that's certainly below those thresholds to need that further level of analysis. We did pick up on a little discrepancy in the land use code used for the retail use. There's a range of different retail uses that can estimate trips, and the one used for the site was based off of information and data collected for spaces that are greater than 150,000 square feet. Obviously, the space is much smaller. There is a additional land use code for spaces less than 40,000 square feet, which may apply better to this site and estimate those trips. There is a slight increase than what was originally reported, which is when we checked on our own, but those thresholds for the Mass DOT TIS guidelines would still not be met if you adjusted for that land use instead of the 150,000 square foot retail data. So with the retail use, we agree generally with the findings of the report that there's minimal increases in traffic along the study area. Again, if there was some kind of higher generating restaurant use, like a fast food restaurant, a coffee shop, things like that, the parking, the need for a wider study area and capacity analysis may need to be revisited. So we didn't get an updated copy of site plans, so we did have a couple of recommendations just relative to those. One being that they should only mention the retail space on the site plan. The second being that the high visibility crosswalks across the site driveway and within the site be shown on the site plans, which the applicant indicated they would do. We just didn't have a chance to review any of that. Notes for landscaping and signage just at the site entrance, just that they would be maintained low and not obstruct site distance. The applicant had indicated that those would be incorporated. We recommend that be on the final plan. Delivery vehicle and emergency vehicle access. We had requested if a delivery vehicle turning template could be provided. We did not get an updated copy of that. There was the emergency vehicle turning template provided, which we did review, and it had very minimal, but it looked like it was coming close to some of the parking spaces. So we had suggested, if those parking spaces, if there was a car parked there, would there be any issue with access with a fire truck circulating? The applicant did come back and say that they are still coordinating with the fire department, but so long as the fire department doesn't see any issues, with the site circulation, things like that. We would just want to make sure that the final site plans do include the delivery truck, since that wasn't something that we were able to review. And then along the same lines of delivery, just near the residential area of the site, that there might be one designated parking space or some kind of designated parking area for a delivery vehicle for those residents. Amazon, UPS, et cetera, could be combined with like a ride-sharing space as well. Those typically are included on site plans that we review. And the last one would be to indicate the limits of some potential sidewalk improvements along the frontage. They were proposing to update the curb ramps at the driveway with the reconfiguration that's proposed there. But we had noted that there's some areas of poor condition sidewalk or sidewalk where it's kind of gaps in sidewalk along the frontage. Obviously, that's something that Mass DOT would have to approve, but recommend that there potentially be some limits of potential sidewalk improvement along the frontage noted on the final site plan, and obviously to be coordinated and approved with MassDOT. That was the end of our recommendations, but generally retail use, we agree, with the findings of the traffic memo.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I apologize for calling you Michelle. Sorry. Ollie, do you have any, want to give you the opportunity to provide any other commentary to that?
We received the comments yesterday, and we agree some of the information that wasn't on the plans, and we will be adding those to the plans, and all the improvements that were mentioned are going to be addressed through our driveway or curb cut opening process through Mass DOT, and we will be following Mass DOT standards in regards to the sidewalk, the opening itself, the location of the island, Delta Island, and the crosswalks and the materials as well. All of that will be addressed through our permit process with Mass DOT.
What about the comment about the fire department, the site circulation, the interior
John.
site circulation?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
sorry.
we did provide updated plans showing that for the emergency vehicle, when you run the emergency vehicle's fire engine through the site, sometimes the tail end will swing out, and I think it was clipping the end of a couple of parking spaces. So we modified that to drive it through the site so it's not hitting going within any of the striping. So we have an updated plan that was submitted, that's in the portal. In addition to that, we had for a delivery vehicle pulling into the site, going in front for deliveries to the retail building. And so that's uploaded into the system. And I'd note that the driving aisle in front of the retail building, I think the driving aisle is 32 feet wide. And we made that, typical driving aisle is 24 feet. We made it extra wide, anticipating in case there were some delivery vehicles going in there, which would be, need some extra room for maneuvering in front of the retail building for deliveries. And we also did, for like an Amazon truck pulling in front of some of the buildings. We didn't show a designated delivery space in front of the apartment buildings. What we've done on some other apartment projects, is installed a sign for, delivery vehicles, whether it's, 8 to 5 or during regular business hours, but the Amazon guys, they just pull up,
You don't pay
pull
attention
off-
to parking
they-
spaces.
They're not gonna look at a sign, they just pull off to the side, they, drop off the package in the package delivery room, they leave and they go. So, if that's something the board would want, we're fine with it. If you don't think that it's necessary, and again, in the scope of apartment buildings, these are a couple of smaller buildings, they're not, 60 unit buildings, they're smaller buildings. Not to say that they're not gonna get packages delivered, but typically, those types of things practically don't get used. But again, if that's something you would want us to do, to designate a spot, we're fine with doing that. All of the other items, we're gonna have to go in front of DOT, as you know. We're gonna be presenting curb cut plans to them. The DOT will probably have some changes. And then once we go through that process, before we start construction, we typically have a pre-construction meeting, and then the final plans get submitted. Those plans would be reflective of any improvements or changes, whether it's to the sidewalk, the curbing, et cetera, crosswalks within the DOT right-of-way, and including the sidewalk that goes up the shoulder of Route 9 in front of the retail building. So all those will be added as part, not only based on the suggestions from the traffic reviewer, but in conjunction with plans that are submitted to DOT for their review.
Okay. Chris, a question for you. If, as part of Mass DOT's review, if there are minor changes, then that's fine. They don't necessarily, this wouldn't need to come back to the board. What is that threshold that would then say, I'm sorry, you have to go back to the town to review some of this stuff?
Yeah, so that we do review them, so as part of that pre-construction meeting, prior to having that meeting with staff, they do provide the final plan set, so that would be after the MassDOT process. If they're substantial, requiring, the thresholds are defined in the de minimis plan set, de minimis criteria that the board can define, or full modification. So depending upon the scope of what changes MassDOT comes, they may need to do a de minimis or a full modification. If they're insubstantial according to what the board is approving now, and, you know, in relation to the allowances for the final plan set, as long as it aligns with that and the decision conditions, then they would not need to return to this board. But anything substantially different from what the board is approving would come back to you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Sorry, Dino, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Perna?
I do not have any comments.
Yeah, so it seemed, from reviewing the material, that the Mass DOT approval was solely around the entrance or the curb cut to Route 9.
That would be correct.
So that's gonna get worked out through Mass DOT.
Correct.
That's correct. And so, to follow up on the previous question, I think that by substantial changes, if there was like a widening of the driveway or something like that, then we might have to come back for that, but
Sure.
we don't anticipate something like that.
Okay.
All right, in Maureen's conclusion, that this project will have a minimal impact on the surrounding roadways, or no significant impact, is in line with, more or less, with what your conclusion is.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, then I just had a question for the applicant, other than traffic, but.
Sure.
What design did you finally decide on for the buildings? There were two in the supports.
There should be one in the supports, because
This is,
are you talking, Hamid, by
this is
the way?
Hamid.
Yep,
Yeah.
we're asking about the residential or the retail.
Residential.
So the residential, there are multiple in there because the unit counts. So it was 48 units, so two 24-unit buildings, and then 20-unit buildings.
Yeah.
And then the final one was the 18-unit buildings. So the design is the 18-unit buildings with the materials labeled on it, with the flat roof design.
The flat,
that you
okay.
folks said was more in line with what you wanted to see.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Steve, do you have any questions?
No, I think the applicant has made great strides in improving this project since the original submission. So, you know, again, our board can't condition the approval on any improvements to the state highway, but I'm curious as to what MassDOT will say.
Okay. I do just want to make note, I had sent over some questions previously and was able to get some responses back. And I guess on the retail piece and what that does for trip generation, whatnot, I understand and appreciate what both of the traffic engineers have said tonight. So I guess, is it being suggested by the applicant that we could or should be putting in any decision that's rendered that this can't be a restaurant, that it has to be solely retail?
I would suggest to you respectfully that if we were to come back with a restaurant use, we'd have to come back to you. There's no doubt in my mind, because the parking requirements would blow this up. That's the problem. It should have never been mentioned to begin with.
I would go so far as to say, yes, parking would absolutely be an issue, but I think that traffic then also becomes an issue,
Right.
and looking at
Yes.
an intersection analysis and
Yes.
and all of that.
I was thinking
So-
of the interior.
Sure,
properties.
sure. So I guess, I mean, that would be one thing that I would be looking to put into anything is kind of making sure that it is very clear that if there is a change of that use from a retail component to a potential restaurant, or quite frankly, even like a coffee shop, I think that that's something that needs to be kind of specifically spelled out.
Yeah, what I'd suggest that we could look at putting in the findings of the decision, memorializing that conversation that this is being permitted as a retail use. If there is a food service or restaurant type use that is proposed, the applicant acknowledges that they will return for a change in use and
Yep.
in so much that it requires parking.
And that's acceptable.
And then the other item that, I believe it was included as part of Bowman's, comments, and perhaps, maybe, Ali, you can speak to this a bit, is the crash data analysis that we had previously discussed. Now, I know that your response pretty much was essentially saying that the traffic counts that were coming, and please correct me if I read this incorrectly, but essentially the traffic counts that are coming from this site don't necessarily, they're not going to be a good comparison. And there was a comment of, pardon me. If we were to look further at, traffic or, crash analysis, that crash analysis is already being done on the project for the other side, which to be fair, we've had that conversation at these board meetings before, and that we need to take these projects separately, so we can't pick and choose what we're going to be comparing for both of these projects. So I guess I just make mention of that analysis would be of interest, because we have to look at these in a bit of a silo right now and not consider the traffic analysis that is being done for the proposed project across the street. So that's just something that I'd like to just make mention of as well.
So I could expand on that a little bit?
Sure, yeah.
Usually, crash analysis is done based on existing traffic, meaning that you go out there, collect data, and then you look at history of crashes at certain location, whether it's a length of a road or an intersection, in this case here, for a number of years. And then there's a formula that Mass DOT provides that you have to calculate the number of crashes per 1 million vehicles entering the intersection. And the point I say that is, it's done based on existing traffic counts. You can't base it on future, because a lot of the accidents are in the past, and anything future in terms of traffic volumes will be just projection or an estimate, whereas Mass DOT wants the existing data, which is the raw data, to be used. And the project across the street, they did a traffic study. They used the same procedure, and they used the same accident data and the traffic volumes that they had collected at every one of those intersections. I think one of the concerns was around Oak Street intersection. And we look at the numbers that they had calculated, it's way below what an average rate is for an intersection in District 3 of Mass DOT. Shrewsbury falls in District 3 as well. So based on that, we can tell you that there are no safety deficiencies at that intersection or any of the other intersections that they studied. Actually, they were all below the average for intersections, signalized intersections within District 3 of Mass DOT.
Okay, so I guess in the event that MassDOT turns around and says, you need to do this analysis, I mean, that's,
no,
are we
that's-
just delaying the inevitable here,
No,
or?
that's not what I said. Projects, I think, were mentioned by reviewing engineer, that projects that generate over a certain number of trips during rush hour, or over a certain percent of the area traffic, and they're subjected to providing a traffic impact assessment. That's when they do these studies. Projects below that don't require a study like that. That's why we kept indicating in our report that this project is very small, it generates very little traffic, and thus has very little impact on the area. But if you had a big project, a big supermarket, or even a CVS pharmacy, and then you may trigger those numbers, and then you have to prepare a traffic impact assessment, in which case you have to do traffic counting, and then you have to look at the history of the crashes at the intersections within the study area, and then you calculate to find out whether the intersection is safe or not. And whether the intersection will be able to handle additional traffic, and what the level of service will be in the future.
Okay. Understood. Maureen, yep. Sure.
Again, this goes back to the restaurant use being listed on the site plan and us not knowing if there was a potential restaurant use intended and if that higher trip threshold was going to be met or not. So we included that comment just in case there was that trip generation comparison that then triggered additional review. So it would have been good to look at it. We understand it's being looked at now as part of the other development, but that's kind of the basis of where that comment came from originally.
Understood. Thank you.
Again, that pesky restaurant.
Pesky restaurant. Just cook at home.
Yeah, still want a DoorDash.
All right, this is a public hearing. I'd like to open it up to members of the public wishing to speak on this item this evening. Yes, sir?
Mark Majori, 19 Gordon Road. Last meeting, before we get into the traffic question I have, is the website, town website did not have the cross-section at the time of the meeting, but I did eventually see it. I do have a just general comment about that. I was expecting a little bit more than just this. This is all I saw from the cross-section. This is it. So there was no 3D or anything like generalization of the whole entire site and how it looks from Route 9 to Gordon Road or any of that. None of that was submitted. I think you guys were asking a little bit more than just this. Were you?
We had asked for some 3D modeling, I thought.
So that's considered a cross-section view, a massing model. Typically, larger developments will do what's called a massing model, which is the 3D. So it's certainly within the board's purview if that's what they need. But that does show the view shed, so it's shows a cross-section. You see the elevation of the structures themselves on the site, as well as the elevation to abutting properties. I believe
So I noticed the example they give is building number 2, and then they use 9 Gordon Road as the resident, which is part of the commercial part of it, not the residential. And resident 3 is much closer to the resident on the resident side. So it's actually, it's kind of deceiving how far that is from this cross-section versus building 3 to, let's just say, my address, 19 and 15 Gordon Road. So it's kind of deceiving what you see here. This looks farther away than the closest building to the residence. It's kind of minor, but I do deal with cross-sections as a living, so I know, you gotta go show all, you kind of almost have to show all the houses, abutting houses, and all the residences, all the buildings, and what it's related to. Yeah, see, so this is building 2, which is the most east near the power lines. And you're not showing this over here. You're saying this is part of the commercial. This is residential only. So someone just looking at it who does not live in that neighborhood, it's like, oh, well, but I mean, more likely, the people who live right here are more likely to see this more closely than number 9 to that. Just details in the.
So through the chair, the reason the second building was chosen, this request came, I think it was from one of the other neighbors, Kathleen, I believe, she was asking about like the power lines and the visibility of those and what would be seen and what wouldn't. It came up in regards to trees that we'd be blocking and what it would look like when they're looking from their neighborhood. So that's why specifically the other building was used and not the one closest to the neighbor who's here today.
Understood. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification.
Could you do both?
I don't believe it's necessary. I mean, if I have to take every single neighbor's house and show them what these structures are gonna look like, I believe that's a little overkill.
And please note that we're not looking for any waivers on the heights of the buildings. Everything is within allowable heights within the district. We place the buildings as far to, the initial schematics that we had, we looked at having the proposed apartment buildings further to the west because it would have more separation to the power lines. In order to be more cognizant of the residential neighborhoods, we shifted the buildings further to the east to put them closer to the power line so we'd have as much separation for the apartment buildings to the residential zone. In addition to that, we're fencing around the entire perimeter, and we're adding evergreen screening and the types of plantings. Those will grow quite tall. We had, I think, the Thuja green giants for arborvitaes. And then we added additional landscape islands. Even though it was going to take away from some of the parking spaces, we added some additional landscape islands in areas where we could plant trees, which would be even higher. And we located those so that it would be within the view sheds of some of the houses to further screen appropriately to the buildings. So from where we started with our initial concepts to where we ended up, I think we've come a long way in trying to keep as much separation and screening to any of the residential neighbors.
I'm through the chair, I'm just looking through the height. So, I mean, this doesn't really show me a whole lot of, this is the height of the height between my residence. If you wanna look at take a map. You know, the height here, between here and here, I don't see a visual of it,
That's a garage, by the way.
you know? What is that? I was expecting a little bit more, but, I mean, if it's okay with the board, that's fine with me.
Okay.
I just think it would be a little bit more representative of the whole project, because both those buildings are technically on the overlay. And it doesn't show the residential side, but that's splitting hairs, but I just think it could have been presented a little bit more. And to his point, he was probably to a question, and that's how they chose it. But if I'm looking through, you know, a resident's point of view on the, because most of the people who are going to see, most of the people that in that Phelan neighborhood are more likely going to see the other building versus the one on the west. They're when they go on Sias Ave, they're going to see that building. So they want to
Understand
see.
your point.
They want to see when they're driving down Sias Ave. They want to see. We want to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I understand your point. Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
That's the only question I had on that. The traffic study, I mean, I read through all the comments and everything, and, you know, they use the numbers and they say it's not going to be significant. I always take traffic studies with a grain of salt because, you know, they're just going through what the major roads will handle the traffic. And they say, I know you wanted to put it in the silo, but I think the preliminary traffic study from the Maple Ave said I think it was going to increase a 1.1 average, and I think his traffic study said it wasn't going to grow more than 1%. So 1%, you know, 1.1%, they're kind of in the line of each other. So, but what they don't really show, the traffic study, is how it affects the ins and outs of the actual property going on to Route 9 and then what's before and after. They only show east and west, but they don't show how to enter and how many cars are going to enter, how many cars are going to exit, and how long they're going to be waiting for. A perfect example of this is if you look at Phelan, from Stanley to Brown to Bailey to Gleason to Tatum and Gordon, there's probably about 2 lots in between each of those roads that go into Phelan. So I think I used this example before, is if someone was going onto Bailey off of Bailey Road, they wanted to go onto Route 9 East, and they were going on a Bailey Road, they were coming off of Trippies or Papa's Hardware. And then there was another car that's coming out of the Greendale, which is off Gleason. And then there's someone who in the neighborhood who wants to go on Gleason. To get out of that neighborhood, the whole lot of cars coming from west to east, and then we have to wait. And as the traffic tail ends, the car from Bailey Road comes first, and then there's enough lag time for the Greendale to enter, and then from Gleason to enter, before the next line of traffic light comes in. So there's enough space in between those two of all the businesses and the residences. Here, we have Gordon Road, and then we have iCar, and then their property, okay? So it's a very small, narrow of it. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I know when I want to go east, I have to wait until all the cars from west to east has that traffic light to be red, so I can get out of the street safely. Before that, the Maple Ave lights, where the subway is, there's cars that take a left onto Route 9 East, and it's probably about a 4 or 5 car cycle, all right? When they make a turn,
And Mark, I just, is there a question?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So on the traffic study, on the traffic study on figure 2 and 3, you can see, if you have the traffic study, you can see where the cars are coming in this way. I don't know if you have it, but they're either going to take a turn into Gordon Road, or they're going to go, most of the cars don't technically legally go on the most left lane, they go on the right lane. So you have a very small window to make a turn, because there's probably like 5 seconds. So I'm worried about how many people coming in and out of their property. Delivery trucks, the businesses, the residences. How much lag time are they going to be able to exit their property or enter that property? Because when I try to enter Gordon Road on a full traffic, and I put my blinker on to the Gordon Road, I get beeps all the time because they want to go forward, and then they go into the left lane. It's hard to turn into my neighborhood. It's going to be hard for them to put in there. And then you have the trucks, it's going to just slow traffic. I'm just worried about the volume of traffic, how much bottleneck is you're going to get from from their property to get in there. Because I think you're only going to have 1 or 2 car cycle getting in and out of there. And to give you an example, how many spots? 86 spots, right? So that's 86 cars. If you add up all the cars from Gordon Road, Tatum Road, and Gleason Road, that's 3 streets on the Phelan. That's roughly around 90 cars in those 3 streets. And then you have 3 businesses. If you told all those people, all those residences, and had 3 businesses, they could only go in and out 1 of those streets, Gordon Road, you're gonna have a bottleneck. I know because I live on Gordon Road and I see the cars, I mean, we have multiple exits and enters to get into that neighborhood. They only have one. So the traffic study doesn't really, they only show this way. I just worry, and then my final worry is we're probably not gonna get a winter like this all the time. Well, we do, okay? iCar, the business before there, they have all their snow piled on the fence. So if you drive there tonight, right, if you do there tonight, if you went out and go on the road, you would not be able to see their driveway. So the cars, they're gonna be blocked, and I mean, I know it's snow, and I know, but even then, there's a fence there, so any kind of snow, whether you got just 5 feet of snow, it's all piled up against that fence. They're not gonna be able to see Route 9. And I know because I literally walked there, and I drove on the side, I walked there on the sidewalk, and I was pretending I was a car getting out of the driveway. I can't see anything. So it's not so much the traffic study. I mean, they're gonna tell you, yeah, that's gonna be there, but there's gonna be a lot of cars coming in and out of that thing, and I just don't see more than 2 cars. And then if you have a delivery guy or delivery trucks, FedEx, because they come in and out of the neighborhood all the time, it's gonna be hard for them to get out. I know this is probably out of your realm. The DOT is gonna have most of the say. So I guess my question is do we have any input for the DOT? Or no, it's just kind of, they just do their thing, they make a decision and that's it?
I think we have to make the decisions that are specific to the site. And unfortunately, like this now then will go to MassDOT and they have to do their analysis.
Do they offer any public comments?
That I couldn't speak to.
So no, their process is typically done internally with them. That said, we do coordinate with MassDOT. We're happy to bring those concerns to them through this process to make sure that they're reviewed as part of their analysis, but ultimately it is a MassDOT decision.
The project's fine. I just think the residents who live there are gonna be just as frustrated as am I here. Maybe they will, I don't know, they're gonna charge probably $2,500, $3,000 for rent. And, it's a tough area to get in and out of Route 9. Route 9's tough. And then, the whole other headache on the other side, it's just gonna make it worse for these guys. I don't know. I don't know what, they said they might have one business in there right now they're talking about. I don't know if there's any other businesses they're talking about, but I don't know what kind of business you're gonna really generate from that building.
If you're looking at me, not a restaurant.
No. Well, I had issues with the restaurant, the barbecue chicken place that went in there, right?
Yeah, I know that.
So, one of the concerns I had, and they still do it all the time, is when they get out of Tatum Road.
Mark, I apologize. We gotta keep
I know.
focused onto this.
But
Like
they
the
literally block
barbecue
Route 9.
chicken
They
is
either block Route 9.
since
And
passed, so.
I'm just
No,
really concerned.
your point is well taken.
Okay.
Thank you.
But there's no, traffic studies don't really tell you that. So I wish, I don't know, maybe the traffic studies in the future should go kind of beyond of, is there a way we can count how many, the estimated time to exit and enter a road, like their traffic? Is there, I'm asking the traffic study, is there a way you can calculate that?
Sure.
That would be yes, that's the capacity analysis. So you look at the actual operations and the level of service, but that goes back to, is this generating enough trips where that is actually even going to significantly change? And the traffic entering and exiting this site based on the trip generation estimates, looking, for the the retail portion using a more appropriate land use code, looking at something like 10, 20, maybe exiting vehicles during those peak hours, probably less
So
at
what's considered peak hours, guys?
weekday morning,
I don't want
weekday
to get
afternoon,
into
rush
too
hour.
much of a back and forth.
No, but
Just-
I just.
Rush
I don't-
hour, morning, afternoon, rush hour times, when the roadway traffic is heaviest. That's the worst case scenario that you would want to look at. So it's insignificant relative to that amount of traffic.
Okay. All right, well, that makes-
Thank you, Maureen.
That actually answers some of my question.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm just concerned about the level of accidents that could happen on that. And, is this gonna be the last meeting? Are you guys thinking of closing this?
I think that that's probably the next step of, we need to have that conversation as a board.
Okay. And then just one final, so I mean, I can ask this question offline about the towns. So when it does get closed, do you make final recommendations as the town?
So the process, if the board closes the hearing this evening, that constitutes the record. Our office would then draft a decision. We have one that's partially completed, but we would finish drafting that decision, provide that draft to the board. The public has access to that as well upon request. The board would then vote on that decision, and that decision then gets filed with the town clerk.
So you close the public hearing, you make your final recommendations, and then that helps the decision of the board.
So we draft, it's not necessarily recommendations, we draft a decision that it details all of the information that the board has collected, all the findings that the board has made in reviewing that information, and a slate of conditions that would lay out the process. If approved, those conditions detail steps that need to be taken, prior to construction, prior to occupancy, and at various stages. So it sets the framework for construction of the project if it's approved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other member of the public wishing to speak on this item this evening? All right, seeing none, I just ask any other board questions or comments that we'd like to address? What is the desire of the board? Is there an interest in closing this hearing this evening? Is there additional information that anyone needs from the project proponent?
I think we have enough information for the traffic. My only thing is whether the public had enough time to review the latest of the traffic information.
Yeah, certainly. So that the latest report was provided just the other day. So it is there, but in terms of the residents being able to review and comment, that does not leave a lot of time.
Well, I mean, and I know it's an unpopular conclusion, Mark, to the traffic study, but it boils down to that it does fall below the criteria for further analysis at study area intersections based on Mass DOT's, TIA guidelines. So I don't know how much more we have to discuss about it, unfortunately, Mark.
All right, I'd like to see if there's a motion on the table to close this public hearing.
I make a motion to close this public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Dino,
Yes.
Perna,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, so we'll start drafting a decision.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
That's it for me tonight.
You can go.
Thank you.
Next item, we have a couple, as I had mentioned at the start of this hearing, we have a number of continuances this evening, so I'd like to entertain a motion to continue the hearing for the proposed mixed-use development site plan approval and special permit for 525 Hartford Turnpike.
I move that we continue the public hearing for 525 Hartford Turnpike to April 2nd.
Second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Dino?
Yes.
Perna?
Aye, yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Steve?
I have a conflict, so I'm recusing myself.
Okay, and I'm a yes, so this will be, that one will be continued to April 2nd. Next, request for continuance for 335 Maple Ave. Is there a motion on the table?
Chris, can we combine both of those two or each one separate? Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I move that we continue the proposed commercial development site plan approval and special permit for 335 Maple Avenue to April 2nd.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Matt?
I have to recuse myself. from this.
That's right. My apologies. Dino?
Yes.
Perna?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right, that concludes the meetings and hearings portion of it, of our meeting this evening. Next up is new business to discuss the proposed warrant article regarding summer houses, accessory dwelling units.
Thank you. So we have one proposed warrant article for the May town meeting. It's primarily a cleanup article related to the recently passed accessory dwelling unit bylaw, as well as we did find a reference to summer houses in our current zoning. So we're proposing it as one article just to clean up those items. So the accessory dwelling units is looking at, included in your packet is a letter, a decision from the Attorney General after the town meeting vote on that bylaw. It's really just one section in there that details a recommendation for more clarity around where Dover protections apply to the location of ADUs. So what we're proposing is just a simple language change in relation to the location of ADUs in the front yard. Would be allowed only in the instance where Dover protections apply to them, so only where it would be prohibited otherwise. So say if the rear yard is significantly sloped in a way that you cannot construct on it, or if it's a corner lot that has no rear yard or side yard that is meaningful for placement of an ADU, by state statute, they are protected and allowed to put an ADU in the front yard only in those circumstances. So this provides that clarifying language. In terms of the summer homes, we've seen some slight renewed interest in that in relation to, I think, people looking at ADUs and where they can put them on their property. There is actually no definition for summer houses in our bylaw. It's simply a reference that's included in an accessory use related to pools and cabanas. But again, we're proposing to remove that, just to remove any ambiguity between what is a summer home and what is an ADU. It's largely an antiquated phrase at this point that has no definition and does not really serve a substantial purpose in our bylaw. So we're suggesting that it just be removed.
Okay, so that's just,
Yeah, so process-wise, this evening, we're seeking for the board to refer this draft warrant article to the select board. They would then review this on their meeting on the 10th, where they would refer it back to the planning board for a public hearing, which would be held at the April 2nd meeting.
okay. All right, so any questions from the board on this warrant article?
No question, Chair.
If not,
Only, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, I'm sorry.
Only with the exception, in cases where requiring such location would constitute a prohibition of the ADU. But all the other, even if it turned out that it was allowed in the front yard because of that, all the other zoning requirements still apply. Still have to meet everything else.
Exactly, yeah. So we purposely chose the language to really mirror, pretty precisely what the AG was recommending clarity on. So in order to put an ADU in your front yard, you would need to prove that it is, to the board, that it is a practical prohibition to place that ADU in any other location.
Yeah.
So, attached or otherwise, you would have to make that case, and some board accept it.
But it would still be subject to the zoning requirements. I couldn't,
Correct.
if it
Yeah,
was a 50-foot
setbacks
setback, I
and-
couldn't, right.
Exactly,
I couldn't-
setbacks and all that.
Fair enough. That
Yeah.
was probably obvious. I just wanted to clarify.
No, thank you.
All right, so is there a motion on the table to refer this warrant article to the Board of Selectmen?
I move that we refer the proposed warrant article to select board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Matt?
Aye.
Dino?
All right.
Perna?
Aye.
Tim?
Yes.
Steve?
Aye.
And I am a yes. So we will look at seeing that back in front of us for public hearing on April 2nd. Next item on the agenda, we have two A&R plans submissions this evening, one for 33 Redland Street and one for 17 Maple Ave. These plans have been reviewed by staff for compliance with Mass General Law, and they've been recommended for endorsement. Do I have a motion to endorse the plans and allow for the town to sign on the board's behalf?
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. The 127 Maple Avenue, Chris, is that the Beale School property?
It is, yeah, so this
What is this about, like?
Yeah, so the 1-7 Maple Ave, so this is splitting the portion of lot, essentially the green space that'll be reserved. So this splits that off from the Beale School, which is slated for redevelopment per that approval. So as part of that condition, that would be, once building permits were sought, that green space is to be returned to the town. It will be repaired and brought up to a better standard through that construction process, but it is deeded out. We are only providing them with the portion that is under construction, so.
So this is the place that's the back ball field area, right?
Baseball field.
Oh, okay,
Yep,
okay.
and playground, yep.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And as part of this process, as was discussed in that development process, we'll soon likely engage with the public to determine what the highest and best public use for that property would be, as an open space revitalization. So that will feed into that. But this is simply the A&R to split that piece off.
Okay.
As the parent of a daughter who plays softball, I would encourage softball field.
Easy to.
You didn't ask, but I'm telling you. Okay, so I guess, is there a motion to endorse those plans?
Yeah, I move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Dino, Perna,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And I am a yes. Okay. No correspondence this evening?
And this evening.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so with that, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn this evening's planning board meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, Matt,
Aye.
Dino,
Aye.
Perna,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and Julie. Can you please bring the sun back for us?
The whole meeting?
Yes.
Did you talk about the
Right.
spectacular? I've been here for two, did you talk about that yet?
We continued those hearings.
There was a
I'm
request.
sorry, say that again?
Those hearings were continued to the April 2nd
So you're
meeting.
not gonna talk about that tonight?
We're not talking about those this evening. There was a request for a
Did you say
continuance.
that in the beginning, or you
I
just
mentioned-
decided that now?
No, I mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting, and then we voted again on those
I
continuances.
didn't hear that. I wouldn't have sat here for 3 hours if
Oh.
that was the case.
My apologies, sir.
Yeah.
When is the next meeting gonna be?
April 2nd.
Why wouldn't you continue it now, since we're all here?
They requested.
Yeah, so they requested it, and it's on the
Just, we
agenda.
waited a whole month, I'm sorry?
It's on the agenda as well, the request to continue.
It's on the agenda that it's gonna be continued?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was written on there.
And it's not gonna be addressed tonight? That's
No.
on this piece of paper?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I think, yes, I think we're closed. Yep.